you want to move about the cabin.
Deborah actually got a wireless mouse. If you had a wireless mouse, you could do it.
I came early, got all hooked up.
Yes, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
so
house. Yeah. Yeah.
but if would that mouse work with just
No.
the display up there?
Not with that one. Can't control that. I don't know. I'm one person scrolling this thing. I got it. I just need to hook up. Yes, so true.
Now that we're out here, I'm anxious. Yeah. Good evening and welcome to the January 24, 2023 regular meeting of the Township Board for the Charter Township of Meridian. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Lamaster, can we have a roll call vote?
Supervisor Jackson,
Here.
Clerk Guthrie,
Here.
Treasurer DeShane,
Here.
Trustee Hendrickson,
Here.
Trustee Sundland,
Here.
Trustee Wilson,
Here.
Trustee Wazinski,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. Tonight, as item 4 on our agenda, we have 4 presentations scheduled. The first is with State Representative Penelope Cernoglu of the House District 75. Unfortunately, we've learned in the last few minutes that the representative is in session at the House. And so we'll have to postpone her presentation and invite her at another time to make that. 4B on our agenda is the recognition of World Kiwanis Week, which is January 21st to the 26th in 2023. With us is Mr. Tom Moore, who is the current Kiwanis president, and he will give us our presentation. Mr. Moore is also the township librarian.
Hazlitt and Okemos branches of the Capillary District Library as well.
Okay,
So
yes.
staying busy. It's good to see you. Thank you for having me here today and celebrating World Kiwanis Week. I have to say, I have only been involved with Kiwanis for 2 years since I moved to the township and took over as the Hazlitt Library head. And I did not know that there was a World Kiwanis Week, but I am happy to be here and to be celebrated and honored because Kiwanis does so many great things for our community. And it's funny, if you walk into Blondie's Barn at 7 a.m. for one of our regular meetings and look around the room, you would not think that that group of gentlemen and a few ladies would have such a big impact. But the fundraising efforts that we run every year raise nearly $40,000 that we give back to the community. And we give that back in the form of funds to support the youth sports pavilion at Marcus Place on the Green. I think we gave $75,000 for that project. We give annually to the Hazlitt Robotics Club. This year, we're giving $8,000 as our contribution to that club. We give $2,000 to middle school students in the form of gift cards to Schuler Books for March's Reading Month. We sponsor key clubs and builders clubs at the schools to teach leadership and community service. We provided dictionaries to every third grader in Hazlitt and Okemos schools. We supported the Meridian Cares backpack program that Marna came and talked to us about. And we gave in smaller portions as well. We supported the Shuffle Toy Project, the scholarships to the Youth Taught Swim program at the Parkwood YMCA, the Hazlitt Food Pantry. We sponsor concerts at the Lake Lansing Bandshell concerts. We give to Meridian Cares. We just gave them $900 this morning. That was super exciting. We give to the Okemos Community Church Pastors Fund, the Hazlitt Junior Golf League scholarships. We support the Santa's First Responders Christmas Party, Hazlitt Beautification Association, and so many more community organizations here in Meridian Township. And we also give our time installing and maintaining benches in the parks around the township. I think we have 75 benches, I think is what Phil wrote to me. So that's pretty incredible too. We operate our dunk tank at special events. We ring bells for Salvation Army. At the homecoming parade for the Hazlitt schools, we gave out 300 hot dogs and root beer floats during that parade. And we celebrate our students monthly with a Student of the Month for Hazlitt and Okemos high schoolers. Plus, our main fundraiser, the Flags Over Meridian, not only raises funds to make all these things possible, but it helps beautify our community and brings a really, a great sense of community to Meridian Township, right? With over 800 flags going up and down during the holidays from May until November. So I don't know, it's just another great thing to be here and to be honored, I guess I have to say. And if you're looking for an organization to get involved with, for anyone who's watching, join us at Blondie's, 7 a.m. Tuesday mornings. Come to a meeting. We'll buy you breakfast if you come. I'll buy you breakfast. And just, come and check us out and see what you can do, because we're always looking for fresh perspectives on what the community needs and ways that our club should support the community here. So thank you again for your time. It's an honor.
Mr. Moore, thank you. The next item on our list of presentations tonight is a Red Cedar River Stewardship by Mike Stout of the Michigan Waterways.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me in here. Let me pass out the presentation decks. I'll take no more than 5 minutes of your time, I promise.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore, is this the presentation that we have in our packets? We have it in our packets. Mm-hmm.
All right, first, again, thank you for letting me speak to you this evening and share with you my river assessment of the Red Cedar River from Williamston to Lansing. It's a 22-mile stretch.
Could
First
I
of-
ask you before you start to give us your name and address?
My name is Mike Stout. I'm with Michigan Waterway Stewards. And what else?
Address?
Oh, 5171 Whitehaven Drive, Lansing, Michigan.
Oh, okay.
So,
That's okay.
okay, all right. So I'm a West Lansing resident. a Michigan State graduate, 1983. I'm a long-distance solo paddler. Over the last 6 years, I paddled 6,500 miles. I paddle across the Great Lakes for fun, and that's what brings me here today. I'm the founder of Michigan Waterway Stewards, a nonprofit, and advisor to the Red Cedar Pathway Group. Over the past few months, we have been focusing on river improvement initiatives in the Lansing and East Lansing metro area. We have moved river-wide obstructions under 2 railroad bridges, one on the Grand River, one on the Red Cedar River. We completed park cleanups at Tecumseh Park and Cherry Hill Park. We removed an abandoned homeless encampment along the riverside. We've done riverbank cleanups along the Grand River and the Red Cedar River, and focused our effort to remove e-scooters and bikes from the campus of Michigan State University. The reason I'm here today is that 2 weeks ago, I did a Red Cedar River assessment, and that's from Williamston to Lansing. And I did it for 2 reasons. One, to find out the ease in which it is to paddle. Are there river-wide obstructions? Is it safe? Is it easy? Is it even possible? And the second reason was to find out what kind of work needs to be done to remove trash, litter, and other urban debris. Overall, I was very pleased with the experience. It's very scenic, full of wildlife, easy to paddle, well-maintained. And then we get to the Meridian Riverside Park. It's a beautiful setting. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to paddle through. And we'll go over that as we speak. In the deck here, I don't want to spend too much time in the background, but let's go to page 6 on the deck. And how do I do that on this thing?
Keep scrolling down, and it's numeric order. Down. There you go.
So some of these images aren't popping up.
Yeah, it'll load.
Well, while we wait for that, let's go to page 6 in the deck.
That's 6.
All right. Now, this is the work we've done on the Red Cedar River just over the last couple of months here. And you can see, as in all urban settings, high-density population areas, there's a lot of debris that needs to be cleaned up, be it bikes, scooters, natural litter debris. We do see some of that in the Meridian Township area. And as closer as we get to the East Lansing area, where we have a high density and the commercial type businesses. I would like to recognize a business we partnered with. It's an Okemos-based company, Adrian Blissfield Railroad Company. They're the new owners. And they were instrumental in our clearing 2 river-wide obstructions and one on the Red Cedar River. Without them, that wouldn't have been possible. But these are the kind of challenges we have in some areas, that the pollution hasn't been, or the litter, the trees haven't been addressed, and they've gone unaddressed for 6 years, 5 years, and they get bigger and worse and more difficult for an eventual cleanup. And as I mentioned here, the Red Cedar River offers more scenic beauty, abundance of fish and wildlife, varied rural and urban settings, and opportunities for sport and recreation than any other mid-Michigan river. It's a really incredible river with all kinds of opportunities for all of us to enjoy. Unfortunately, in many areas, particularly here in Meridian Township, due to the large number of river-wide obstructions, it is difficult to navigate for some, impassable for many, and often dangerous for all. With a little effort, we can transform the Red Cedar River into a top mid-Michigan river destination and create a vibrant river-long community worth the grand celebration. And we can do this relatively easily. What we're going to do is skip to, okay, this is the first segment. We're going backwards here. This is from Lansing at the confluence of the Grand River. up to the MSU campus. This is the work that's been done and work that's about to be done. I do want to give a shout out to the city of Lansing for the cooperation and partnering with us. They've been instrumental in a number of cleanups, and they have 2 river ride obstructions in their city, which they'll be removing here the next, hopefully, couple of weeks. Now, this page here, it shows those areas that need attention, and that is from the campus of MSU to Williamston. Again, overall, it's a very scenic, easy to paddle stretch of river. There's only really 3 hot spots to address. One's on the campus of MSU, and that's where we have the underwater dam. And then we have the middle here, numbers 2 through 9, which we'll be talking about here today. And there's some cleanup efforts here in Williamston. And what we have here at the Meridian Riverbank Park, is that right? We have a stretch of 1¼ miles where we have 8 river-wide obstructions. This poses a lot of problems for this river access, user experiences. It diminishes the imagery of your wonderful park systems, and it can prove dangerous for the novice paddler. It's impassable, unusable for floaters. It's inaccessible for fishermen. But the good news is by following the rules of watershed debris management, that we can remove these obstructions with relative ease. And what I'd like to do here is we'll scoot a little bit further. I'll take you along the river as you're heading upstream from Meridian Township, or from Williamston down here to Meridian Township. And this is the beginning of the 1.25 miles of where you see the litter that we're talking about, not the litter, but the obstructions. When you're paddling, you don't want to see your kayak or canoe too often on the trails, which we see here today. But you can see just one after the other, the trees that have fallen across the river, creating natural obstructions, make it impassable. We found 8 on this trip here, but there's also additional obstructions, which you have to jump the logs to pass over. Then you have other obstructions, which we'll show pictures of, that you have to go under. But the challenge is as the water rises, that too will become impassable, so be forced to navigate around the river. When I was doing the river assessment, I noticed that along this stretch here, you've got a lot of shallow embankments, very gradual embankments. So to cut up a passage or to remove them in the entirety, but we have to be mindful of the needs of fishermen, of course. But to cut them up, create a passage, removing them is relatively easy, and based on woody debris management, we can do without permitting. But you can see on this particular page here, on the right-hand side, you can see a tree that's basically covering the entire width of the river. Right now, you can pass under that, but as the river rises, that probably won't be possible in this particular area. But you see over and over and over the challenges we have. So my purpose here today is simply make you aware of the challenges. It's an amazing park system that you have. The Red Cedar River Trail has tremendous opportunities to be a flagship property, create a mid-Michigan destination, but we have to clean up this debris first. Otherwise, it's basically an unusable or underutilized natural asset. It's really not fair for those who want to use it. It's not really reflective of the great park systems that you have here in Meridian Township. And additionally, I've been working with the Red Cedar Pathway Group. This is a group that's led by Rotarians. They're from Williamston, the Hazlet, Okemos, East Lansing, and Lansing. This is a big part of their initiative. We can put up all the boat launches and signage and everything, but unless we have a usable river trail, it all goes to naught. So I just want to make you aware of the challenges. It's a tremendous opportunity. I just hope you have an interest to mitigating this by clearing out the debris or creating a pathway. And timing is really good because right now in the wintertime, the water is low, it's relatively slow. You can access it pretty easily. But as the spring melt-off comes along and the water begins racing down the river, it's going to be very difficult and a whole lot more dangerous. I would say depending on the size of the crew and the skill of the crew, you could definitely create a passage. I'd recommend maybe 10 to 12 feet at least to allow for paddlers and canoers, kayakers, floaters, fishermen to have easy access. Ideally, you want to move all of it, but based on time and resources, you have to manage your resources. But overall, the Red Cedar River is an amazing asset. You have an amazing, beautiful park system, but this needs attention. So, having said that, do you have any questions?
Board members, do you have questions? Not at all. Mr. Duchesne.
The Rotary has formed a coalition of several clubs to address this, but I'm guessing you're expecting there to be need a local government investment as well in this project, and if so, do you have an idea of what the cost would be for the professional crews that would be needed to remove this debris?
Yeah, I think because this is under the woody debris management, it doesn't need permitting. So it's a matter of basically allocating what resources you have, I would say, to this project. Right? And this is a budgetary challenge that you have to address here. I think that the time, again, would be 1 to 2 days, depending on how much you want to clear out. Now's the best time to do it for easy access. And the good thing about this, too, is as you're going down river on the left-hand side, you've got nice river trails. So you can bring in equipment and pull out the logs or stage them for removal or for later as the ground hardens. You want to be careful, of course, not damaging the soil or the erosion. But it is possible, because this does not require permitting, to have volunteers to go in there and cut up passages. I would just not want to recommend that, to put people at risk of getting injured, the danger. I think with what we have here with the city, with your crew that's comfortable and skilled in removing trees and moving trees, that you're best apt to do it. But budgetary, I don't have that figure. I can present to you the need and the opportunity, but I haven't gone that far.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Clerk Guthrie.
Thank you. I want to thank you for this presentation and coming before the board. And I appreciate, I'm on the Red Cedar River group on Facebook. And so I appreciate all of the updates. While I don't canoe or kayak myself, I'm more of a walker, a hiker person. I really do appreciate all of this effort and you coming before the board and presenting this to us.
Yeah, if you were to address this challenge here, it'd be an amazing prize treasure for not just for Meridian Township, but the entire mid-Michigan. It'd become a top destination for paddling, floating, fishing. But right now, it's just basically nearly unusable. Mm-hmm. So it's unfortunate.
Thank you, Mr. Stout.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that it's going to require like an annual cleanup because, as rivers do, they become plugged up again. So if we clean it up, then it could get plugged up again. I think that's probably like an annual thing.
It needs to become part of the city's or the township's plan if they want to accept responsibility for it, be the stewardship. But because of the disease of the trees and the erosion due to urban development and all the challenges, you will have the ongoing challenges any township or any city along the river has with these trees falling in the river. And what the Pathways Group is proposing is to celebrate the Red Cedar River, to bring all these communities together and create an annual event. And it'll force the cities and townships to work together to do the assessments and remove those obstructions when they occur, but definitely in time for a fall river-long event. But it has to be part of your trails maintenance programs. just as the trails on the ground, right? If trees fall in the pathways, remove them. We just need to find some, bring some attention to the riverways. And because you're not paddlers, you don't see it, right? And it's just unfortunate. It's an amazing river trail, and with all the work you're doing and creating the paths above it, this would be an amazing compliment. I'd love to see paddlers from all over Michigan come here, fishermen, enjoy the great fishing that we have on the Red Cedar. But right now, it's just not there, unfortunately. It's all happening within a mile and a quarter in Meridian Township, where it really snakes through your park system.
Okay. Any others? Thank you, Mr. Stout.
All right, thank you.
Item 4D is Nokomis Cultural Heritage Center, and our presentation will be from Mr. John Ostrander.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Ostrander. I'm the Vice President at the Nokomis Cultural Heritage Center at 5153 Marsh Road. I want to just thank you for letting me come in, because we want to kind of make this a yearly thing where we can come in, give you guys an update, what we've done in the past year, and then also what we're going to be looking for and going after. Before I start in, I do want to recognize, because we got some new board members and so we finally hit our, after, during COVID, as it hit a lot of nonprofits, whether volunteers and like that, people scattered to the wind. We did have some passings, and we finally got our board built back up again. And so now, and I do want to introduce Mary Morales. She's our new board president. And so, just to start off, so if this is for 2022, by the end of the year, we had an ending balance of $21,553.39. And the reason I bring this up is the last time I had talked that, we had been going on the last 4 years of rebuilding Nokomis. There were times where they were into where if they had $100 to their name, basically at the end of the month. There's been quite a few of us that have put a big effort into getting this Nokomis back together. And so ending with a balance of that much, and we've always said that by the end of the year, we are trying to keep around 20,000 as a buffer. And it came in useful last year because now in 2021, you guys had helped us put up a new roof, and then we put all new fascia on. And then we finished off all the painting of that this year. We also had to replace one of our air conditioning units. And we're getting ready to replace another one here this spring. And also, what we did is we also finished all our painting, most of the painting on the outside. Like I said, on the fascia, the trim, we repainted our doors. And also, one of the things that we came across is why I feel good that we had the buffer. We came across to where our smoke detection system became outdated in our system because all of it was from 1989 is when the building was built. And so as we got those cost estimates in, they were high just for the smoke detection system. We ran around the state, got bids, and we ended up putting in a whole brand new alarm system and smoke and fire detection system for less than what the one company that we'd been with for 32 years. So we went ahead and we moved on to a new company. So one of the things we also did last year is we continued on with our weekly language classes that we hold. On our Saturdays, we also started using our one room. We opened it up as a craft day for people to come in and do their beadwork. There's what we call ribbon shirt making, and other types of native crafts. And then we did open it up to the public if they want to come in, learn. And it has been surprising, most of the Saturdays now is we have a full room. And it's nice to sit back and just hear the public kind of talking away, learning, and then just people getting to know each other. We started working with the MSU law. And so what they did is they helped us go through everything from our bylaws to our agreements that we would have with vendors, and also with agreements that we would have with any of our contract help. Just because we wanted to make sure, again, bring everything up to date and make sure that we're covered and that they're covered also. And using for the center too, because we also, here's just some of the things that had occurred. We had at least 3 tribes come down and use our center for meetings. And the reason being, and we're probably going to start seeing more of this, with MSU and also the Capitol, a lot of people are not on up at the reservations. They're down here working, and so where the tribes, are contacting us, holding a meeting here at our place, just so they can reach their people here. And just so most people know, because there are 12 federally recognized tribes in Michigan and 3 state-recognized tribes. We partnered with 6 other organizations in hosting events. One of the ones was with the Friends of the Historical Village. We were hosting programs with NASO, which is the North American Indigenous Student Organization from MSU. And whenever they need a little bit of area in a room, we go ahead and we accommodate them. And this is helping us to get that connection too, and partnering with MSU. We finished a pilot program with the Okemos Montessori schools last year. And what we did is we worked with the 3rd and 4th graders. We went in for 5 months, once a month for 5 months. And we started from the beginning of the Anishinaabe people to current day and who we are. And this accounted for about 20 presentations that we did over that 5-month period. And the presentations went extremely well to where they've asked us back now, starting in the fall, now to do all 3rd grade classes in the school system. Every month they want us to set up a program and start building on that. Also, we were at the Grand Ledge School System, and we worked with the 5th graders, and so and did the same thing. And again, coming this fall, they've asked us to come in now and start working with them on doing presentations for them. And so at the 3rd grade level in the state of Michigan, that's when they have to start being introduced to the Native American culture. And so, and the thing is, there's just not a lot of your school books have anything on that. And so what we're doing, and because of this, we're going in and having to hire presenters to start tackling this. But this is a very good thing that is occurring. And over this past year, presentations, we're not including the schools, that we've done 29 presentations, whether for schools, churches, senior centers, libraries, and even just individual people or families coming into the center, and we'll take them on a thing through our gallery and give them a history lesson. Also, let me see, one of the things that we did last year also was we worked with the Friends of the Historical Village and the township and putting together the Heritage Festival, get that back going again. And I have to say, it turned out extremely well. And I believe it's in next month that we're going to start coming back together and start getting this planned again and getting this getting it to grow. We also did a holiday craft sale the 1st of December. And with this was the first time that we really got into doing advertising through social media, so Facebook, and on the internet. And I was new to that, taught myself, and I have to say it worked. And so because the vendors, along that and then I also bought out Home Depot every yellow sign that they had between the two stores. And so if anybody's seen yellow arrow signs, but you know what, it caught everybody's attention, and so, but the vendor said that was probably the best year that they've had in a long, long time. And so again, that because of that, we're going to go ahead and work with the Friends of the Historical Village, and we're going to do it together this year and try to plan some event during that time for the holiday, for a good holiday sale for Meridian Township. Also, one of the things that this time we are also asked to oversee this Elders Monthly Luncheon. And this is a luncheon that this one gentleman puts on. He takes care of the cost every year, and it's for the elders of native tribes. And so it's the one time once a month that they all can get together, because some of them do speak the old language, and so but it's a time for them that are in this area. It's just a time for people just to get together and talk. And again, throughout this year, I kept in communication with Luann Maisner, throughout the year. And a few other things, and I've talked to Phil also. And so one of the things that we want to look at going into this following year is, again, I said that how some of the things that we're looking that we need on our finances that, so we're doing our AC unit, or replacing our second unit. We're also going to do finish off our landscaping around the building, because through the years, all the soil, because the building never had gutters on it, all the soil has sunken around the building. And so what that causes is just, since that's a brick building, your bricks always have a dampness to it. So we're bringing in soil right first as soon as, if we ever get to spring, and grade that so the water is running off. We got new gutters coming in at that same time also. And like I said before, that we're beginning this year with a full board, and we really do have a great group of people. One of the things, we're going to continue on with our language class. I spoke about the Okemos and Grand Ledge school systems on starting there. We do have 2 other of the private schools that we're just in talks with right now that want us to go ahead and to start doing presentations. And with these we also then, with our partnerships, we want to continue one with the Native community, Meridian Township, with both the residents and the township itself. We are also working along with Corey Marsh Research Center, and this is a place out in Langsburg that MSU used to use it as a muck farm, and they were ready to sell it until the sale was held off, and they wanted to use it for other sources in the area. And so if anybody wants to go for a walk, you said you were a walker, it's a great place to go out walking. And so also, we want to continue working with the libraries with just our little talks and some book events that we had with them. We want to continue on with the Friends of the Historical Village, because we really feel that this is an asset that's sitting there, and it's amazing on how many people stop in and have never seen this before, the historical village, and some of the people have lived here most of their life. And so one of the things that we just had our first meeting with is we have an intern coming in from MSU. This will be the first time in over 12 years since we've had an intern. And this person will be, she's acquiring her master's, and so she's going to do develop a course packet for our language class. We also are going to be working with another student from MSU who's acquiring his master's in botany. And he had stopped in, so we're on the starting of this. And so he wants to put in our garden this year, which we were just talking at doing and expanding it. And he needs to do this to graduate. We also will be setting up at the farmer's market, handing out information for not just for Nokomis, for the historical village itself, and also for the township. We're just looking to, work to grow like the Heritage Festival, the holiday sale. And if anybody had ever seen that, because on the holiday sale, we had it on the one weekend in Saturday and Sunday, and the parking lot was just packed. And we'd never seen a parking lot packed that much. And so it was a good feeling to have that. And so through this, we're going to keep staying in communication with Luann Maisner and other township personnel. And I just want to thank Meridian Township and the board for your support and investment in us. And so, because like I said, that it has happened a lot that as we've been putting out who we are and the historical village, and how many people do stop in and say, we never knew this place was here. And so we want to thank you, because we think that this is a benefit for all of us to do this. And so thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Wilson, yes.
Thank you. I'd just like to make a comment. I was on the founding board of directors for the Nokomis. It was then known as the Nokomis Learning Center.
Right.
In 1988.
Yes.
And we conducted a capital campaign to actually build the building.
Yes.
And I stayed on that board until 1992, and I was the treasurer the first 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how difficult things were for you, particularly during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So to hear about these energizing programs that you're doing and the outreach you're doing so that people know the beginning of what was happening in Michigan is really important.
Right.
Particularly the preservation of the Ojibwe language. So
Exactly.
thank you for doing that.
No, thank you. And let me just say, because as bad as COVID was and is, and what we did, though, is we took that to our advantage, because, we were closed for over 10 months. And so we, like in our gallery, we stripped everything out of that whole room. We got stuff that was sitting in totes and rebuilt it, because they didn't have a lot of stuff out back then. And so, but we went through each room. But then what we did is we also went through the business aspect of it, and really looked at. It was tightening things up, really, what had to be tightened up, because every organization has its ups and downs. And so when we did that and got refocused on what we were supposed to be doing, and I have to say, I forgot the gentleman's name, and he was worked with Irene Breslin on the start of, and so, but he stopped in one day, because he says, I haven't been back here, and and he says he'd been watching us, and he told us thanks, because he says you're kind of hitting what was what was lost. And so that was a good feeling to hear that, and so it was a good thing. And so.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Thank you, Ms. Dorsey.
Okay, thank you.
Item 5 on our agenda is citizens address agenda items and non-agenda items. There are 2 opportunities for citizens to speak to the board, and citizens are required to limit their comments to 3 minutes. A timekeeper will communicate communicate at the conclusion of 3 minutes. I have 2 green cards for public comment at this time. The first is Barbara Curtis. You will come to the podium and give us your name and address.
Hi, I'm Barbara Curtis, and I live at 5248 Park Lake Road. which is in Meridian Township, but my mailing address is East Lansing, or that section that's partly East Lansing, and so we use their post office. I did have a comment, though, for Nokomis that I just wanted to thank you for hosting presentations there, too. My 16-year-old grandson who lives with me had attended a presentation that was specially tailored for a mission group. Our church went out to the Rehoboth Native American School in Rehoboth, New Mexico, which was just an incredible trip, but we wanted them to have some context, and Nokomis really helped them in terms of learning, because I think, as we all know, so little is really presented about Native American peoples in history, so I feel like I'm almost needing to teach them myself about this, and also talk to our diversity director for East Lansing Schools, and perhaps invite Nokomis to come and do some presentations in the schools, because there's really such a lack of information there, and it's such a wonderful resource. I put two things down that I wanted to discuss. One was the water main break on Park Lake Road, and I'd like to thank Frank Welsh and Dan Opsimer for meeting with me today to talk about it, and also to Deborah Guthrie. We kind of touched base on the phone because she had posted on Nextdoor that she was available to talk to anybody, so we had a nice chat this afternoon, and I think we all agreed that communication is really important, and in terms of communicating with residents, I guess only 20 households were affected on Park Lake Road. I was one of those 20, and I have 6 children at home, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. It's a very full house. We use a lot of water, and it was very frustrating not to get any information, and I'd thought about maybe going up and talking to the workers, but I didn't want to bother them. And so I think, and I went through the Nextdoor comments and just counted how many people said, I didn't get any notice either, and I'm feeling really frustrated. And there's about 15, I wasn't doing an exact count of people who said that, and also one person who said, and I do echo this, is it's really important to check the Public Works emergency number because it wasn't available. Well, at least not on, Friday afternoon and Saturdays. By Saturday, we had the water back, but it was yellow, and I wasn't really going to give it to my kids, and so we were just drinking bottled water until we figured out it was safe to drink. Dan was really helpful in terms of getting some people out Monday to test the water because I have very young great-grands, and anyway, I think we've all talked about that a lot, but I'd also like to thank Frank for helping my daughter who lives in the Wardcliff neighborhood with a street issue that's completely torn up, and I'm very appreciative to your work.
Thank you. The next green card is Stephanie Asip-Levitt.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Asip-Levitt. I live at 5320 Park Lake Road. I wrote down my comments because I was very frustrated. Hello, I live in the Wardcliff neighborhood. I'm speaking to you tonight about the consistent failure of Meridian Township to communicate with its residents. We've had a steady run of water main breaks along Park Lake Road since August 2021. We were the unlucky household with the break in front of our driveway in August 2021. We had to contact the emergency number, and my husband was berated for calling. We were told it's annoying to get a call on a Saturday. After a night of pump trucks, light trees, and heavy construction, we achieved 30 minutes of sleep before the cops arrived to question my husband about why we chose to jackhammer the street and destroy township property. A failure to communicate within your own departments. We had a fight with the township to get our driveway rebuilt due to numerous construction vehicles repeatedly on our driveway. Again, we were harassed by the township police. The boil notice a few weeks ago was another failure to communicate. My octogenarian neighbors should not be getting news about the boil notice because my children are going door to door. This is a job of the township, not minors. Failure to communicate. The conserved water notice told us to communicate the information to our neighbors. What were you doing? Not communicating the information again. This latest water main break was the final straw for me. The street learned we had no water from a next door post and a news article posted to the site. My oldest had to tell a neighbor that a open hydrant was undermining their driveway. Failure to communicate. The only person on my street who got a phone call back from the township was a school board member. This morning, 4.5 days after the break, someone from the township posted on Nextdoor about how the township has been nationally recognized for their communication. Is that only the golf course and the gated communities, the affluent neighborhoods? Because it isn't for your ability to communicate with my neighborhood. They stated in this one case you are lacking. I regret to inform you, it's in all cases. But that isn't true. The township made sure to communicate. I had a water bill due last Friday with no less than 3 emails. I've called to ask if my neighborhood can get a service the township is providing to other neighborhoods, and I've been told those people are taxpayers. Well, unfortunately for both of us, I am also a taxpayer. I have no liens, and I don't pay with monopoly money. I fully expect retribution because I'm speaking to you tonight, but I want you to know that all of your citizens matter. What is your issue with communicating with us? We live in a time of amazing technology and connectivity, and your ability to communicate with your residents is woefully anemic. I could go on, but we all know that my neighborhood isn't worthy of Meridian Township's time. Another failure to communicate.
Thank you. Now for the item 6 on our agenda is the township manager's report.
Thank you, and I want to thank both speakers for sharing their concerns with us tonight. I'll start with that. Wardcliff is a really important neighborhood in our community. If you look at some of the road work that we've done and all the number of the streets over there and other, well, I can go back to the big, huge windstorm in 2015, if you remember that, I think it was June 8th. And Wardcliff was hit especially hard, if you recall that. Devastating, in fact, even worse on the East Lansing side, but it was horrible. Didn't touch a lot of the township, but it touched Wardcliff significantly. The township ponied up, I think it was $40,000 or $50,000, told the residents over there, don't bother cleaning up, we'll have a company come out and clean up. So we have a history of trying to assist all of our neighborhoods. All neighborhoods are important, and I'm sorry that the speaker feels that way, but I'd love to have a chance to sit down and talk with her about how we can improve perception of things. We also, let's talk about our other work that we do in the area of communications. It's not perfect. We make mistakes in what we do, but on the Daniels Drain project, we worked in front of 700 homes. And the local street project, we worked in front of 350 homes in the Daniels project and another 700 homes on local roads. Daily updates. And let's talk about the conserve water notice that went out. I know myself, I was up all night with that project with Deputy Manager Opsimer, and we were notifying the community at 3:15 in the morning with a Facebook post, which later went on Nextdoor, which later went on other social media outlets. So we were way ahead of the curve on the conserved water notice. Now, getting back to the water main break that just occurred the other day, I've looked back at that. Now, first of all, I want to thank our DPW crews. Okay, they were out there for anywhere from 24 to 36 hours on this water main break. It was a significant one, not caused by the township, caused by Mother Nature, and these things occur. Water main breaks are not a rare occurrence. We'll have over 30 water main breaks in this community. In the town I managed before, which I was there 17 years, it's a town of about quarter the size of Meridian Township. We had more water main breaks there. Why? Because it was an aged system. And in the winter, when you have thawing, warm temperatures and freezing, you're gonna get a lot of water main breaks. And as our system ages, we'll have more water main breaks here. The fact is, if you look back at what happened, our crews worked really hard. We had 2 additional small breaks happen at the same time. It was a very trying time for us. Could we, should we? Yes, we should have. And I'm not castigating anyone who was out on that scene because they were out there all night, couldn't get the water pressure to diminish enough so that we could make the repair. What did we have to do? We faced the decision of spending about $70,000 to call in a contractor that could fix it more quickly because of the size of the pipe and the volume of the water coming off Grand River. So I know this is a lot of down in the details of what happened. What we should have done, one thing we could have done, and We've talked about this, and I'm talking to somebody who was up for 30-some hours working on this. So again, not diminishing in anyone's effort that was out there. But what I would say is that we could have went up and had a personal, since there were only about 20 homes, and I think, Barbara, you raised a good issue today, which we've learned from, we should have went up to each home. It wouldn't have taken us long to go up to 20 houses and knock on the door and say, this is beyond what we thought it was, and it's going to be a while. That's something we should have done. But getting back to what we do in communication-wise, the Grand River project, which was an MDOT project, it wasn't even our project, we were sending out every 48 hours an update to all the businesses. If you talk to the businesses on Grand River, they're pretty happy with our communication that we provided. Let's talk about the Daniels Drain project. Every day, we were sending out a notice to over 300 homes about where their trucks were going to be that day. Very detailed. A project that was the county drains project. It wasn't ours, but we took the initiative to share all that information. Let's talk about the bridge project. That's a county project. It's not our project, the Okemos Road Bridge, but we're doing our best to communicate with the public over and over again. We're giving out more information on these projects than the people who are responsible for the projects. It's not perfect. I'm not up here to say we're perfect, but I'm up here to say, let's look at our track record. We've been in front of 12 or 1,500 homes in the summer of '22, and how many people were here saying, we're not communicating? I realized some things could have went better the other day, and we'll learn from that. I think in this case, because it was on Grand River, and I apologize that people, that residents feel like they were slighted during the break. I feel bad about that. We want to make it better. I think in this case, we would, if to do over again, we'd probably use Everbridge as a notice. Of course, that only goes out to people who were signed up for that. But that's something in hindsight I think we would have used because it's Park Lake Road. It's connecting Grand River up to Costco and some other things. So we probably would have done that. We would have knocked on the doors. But had we not acted the way we acted in getting a large contractor out here from out of town to be able to make that fix, we actually had to this is so bad, we had to shut water down in businesses on Grand River so the flow would stop, trickle down so that we could make the repair to this 24-inch pipe. So that's a little bit about what happened, the things we could have done and will do better. But let's look at the track record of Meridian Township in communicating with our residents. We have had construction, bridge project, Daniels Drain project. We've had a boil water notice, and we've had a conserve water. We've had a lot of things that have happened, not just us, East Lansing's had them too. But I'm very proud of our overall response. Doesn't mean there's not holes in it. So, and I'm more than willing to sit down with any resident who wants to sit down, and I can attest to you that our police department is professional, and we do not go out and try to provoke situations. The deer call, any questions about that you have? The deer call, as you know, archery took 157. Right now with our firearms, the last I've heard, we're about 130. So that puts us at about up in the, close to getting to where we want to be. We only have 200 permits from the DNR. So we'll end up at about 350 deer this year. The Okemos Road Bridge, to our residents, we remain hopeful on February 28th. Again, it's a county bridge project, but I will tell you this, as frustrating as it's been, let's keep in mind, it's a once in an 80-year project. It is a $9 million project. We have not been asked to financially support that project at all. So kudos to the county for getting it done and getting the federal funding to make it happen. It's taken longer than we'd hoped for, and we're just going to need a little bit more patience as we work through it. If things change, we will communicate that out on many, many sources. Again, I want to thank, although there were some issues that occurred that we could do better, I want to thank Deputy Mayor Opsimer and our entire Public Works crew for their response, not only to what happened 4 or 5 days ago, but for the entire past 6 or 8 months. We have Supervisor Jackson and I have a meeting tomorrow with Michigan State University, Dr. Lilly, and their new Director of Real Estate. The building renovation project is going to happen. We'll be probably closing the building between May and October. There'll be a lot more information for the public as we go forward, but we're doing a total renovation of the building. It's been about 50 years for a majority of the building. The pension board meets February 6th. The local officers compensation commission meets for the first time on Friday. Remember, they meet every odd year, and they meet in January. They have one sole purpose, and that is to set the salary ranges for elected officials. Your two new members that were just appointed, Joyce Van Koevering and Steve Agnosi, will take part in that meeting. The first task force of the Senior Community Center is February 14th. Meridian Township, which I spoke to you last meeting about fire and medical coverage, and that's becoming an issue. We've addressed part of it by placing two additional paramedic firefighters in the south side of the community so that we can handle any emergencies that come up. We are challenged with the bridge project. We cannot go southbound. There are times on Dobie Road where you don't want to go southbound. And so we're left with, how do we traverse down to the south part of the community between Meridian Road, Jolly Road, Hagedorn, and Grand River. And so we've placed two additional personnel down there every day on duty. It's costly, but it's certainly worth the effort. The Planning Commission met last night for the first time with their new full membership. We had 9 planning commissioners last night, which is a full capacity, which we've not had in a very long time. The community sign project, you'll start to see the signs go up here in late January, early February. And as far as the Red Cedar project, certainly we want to make sure that, I know that Director Luann Maisner is involved. I think we ought to want to get the Park Commission involved as well and see what we can do collectively as a team to work on the project. And I want to also thank Mr. Ostrander for your great presentation. And it's good to hear that Nokomis is back up and running and strong as ever. That concludes. I apologize for the longer presentation I normally provide, but I think it's important that we address the issues that are in front of us head on. And I actually, people fret, we've got a citizen coming in that wants to talk about this or that and everything. And I actually really enjoyed my conversation and getting to know you, Barbara, today, and look forward to, if you ever have any issues again, to please let us know. We'd be happy to work with you. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Clerk Guthrie.
I have a quick question. How many pounds of venison is that? And can you remind me, where does that get donated? I forgot.
Yeah, so we did 7,000 pounds last year with the program. We're going to exceed that this year. In fact, I believe Trustee Wilson just worked on a donation here locally.
Indeed, we have taken 500 pounds of venison total over the last 2 months to the downtown Lansing Food Pantry at First Presbyterian Church, where I've been a volunteer for over 10 years, and you are feeding a lot of people. And we just took a freezer full in last Friday, so we're very grateful.
Yeah, I believe.
It really helps us.
Yeah, thank you for that. I also believe that we made a significant donation to the Grand Ledge Food Pantry.
You did.
Yeah.
1,100 pounds total, of which we took 300 and they took 800. And it all goes to low-income families. We feed at the food pantry at First Presbyterian Church Lansing. We feed about 125 people a week.
Yeah.
So it goes very quickly.
Great work by our Parks Department, our volunteers, our Police Department led by Chief Plaga. The estimate this year is between 8,200 and 8,500 pounds of venison through the program. And we're well on our way to reach that. And it's a very popular program for the food banks in the 3-county area. We're delivering all over the place because the demand is high and we have a lot of venison this year.
Thank you both. I mean, you know, I was a single mom with 2 kids on assistance long time ago and had assistance with food. So I really appreciate those efforts to help out our community members. Thank you. Thanks, Martin. I know you do a lot of work on that. Thank you.
Other questions or comments by board members? Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you for your time.
Next on our agenda is board member reports of activities and announcements. Mr. Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. On January 20th, I had the opportunity to go with several members of the board to Representative Cernoglu's open house. I know we were all there at varying times throughout the day. I know that when I was there, the discussion was open, it was frank, it was very productive, and we got to speak on a number of interesting issues that are both common issues for the township and also for the state. And I know that I am excited to thanks to redistricting last year, we have all been given the opportunity to have not one but two state representatives who are representing Meridian Township in the legislature. And I look forward to having two voices speaking for us and on our behalf to the state. And I think that both Penelope and, of course, Representative Brixey, who's been here for quite some time as well, will be effective advocates for us in the legislature.
I would add that we were all looking forward to the representative coming tonight and allowing us to introduce her maybe to some in the neighborhood, but we will continue in our attempt to bring her here. Trustee Sunderland.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I attended the Meridian Transportation Commission meeting on January 19th. And oh my gosh, there was so much information. I can't even summarize it, but they're working on a trail project between Hagedorn and Shaw. Their phase 1 is a pedestrian bridge crossing over the Red Cedar River, and they started in December. Phase 2 is from Campus Hill Apartments to Okemos. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on. Behind the scenes, there's a bike-friendly community, and so just look it up. And I couldn't believe how much information they had available. So, thank you.
Are you pointing to the township website for the Transportation Commission to find the information you're referring to?
Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be meeting minutes too,
Okay.
They just met, so, but yeah,
Okay.
a lot going on.
Trustee Wilson.
On January 11th, we had a meeting of the Community Resource Commission, and we had 2 new members that attended that meeting. Most of the time was spent doing a debrief on the Knott Hill fire because there was a lot of information that we wanted to impart about that, and I think we made a tremendous amount of progress helping those folks. I just want to remind the community again that there is an open closet with clothing, household goods, diapers, all kinds of things available at Faith Lutheran Church on Dobie Road in Okemos. It's going to be open for 1 more week. It's free to any person in the township who needs some resources. So I just want to be sure that people know about that. And also, Madam Supervisor, I'd like to read something. I have an announcement that I would like to bring forward. The Village of Okemos, also known as Downtown Okemos project at the corner of Okemos Road and Hamilton Road is ongoing. There have been multiple changes to the plan and many involved parties, including the state, county, and township. The Township Board has conducted multiple public hearings, notices, and amendments about the development, most recently in November of 2022. As we approach the 5th anniversary of the project announcement, the Township Board is formally asking management to arrange for a public forum to inform residents about the progress of the Village of Okemos development. It will be an opportunity for our residents and the Township Board to hear directly from the developers about the current project and its timeline. Notice of the public forum shall be widely advertised through print media, our website, and social media, including Facebook and Nextdoor. We hope that any interested citizens will attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Duchesne.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. On January 18th, I attended the CATA annual board retreat at the Lansing Center, and also on the 20th, attended Representative Sernoglu's elected officials open house. It was a very productive time. The manager's request, he's asked all department heads to set out their top goals for their departments. I would like to share my three with this board real quickly. They are: one, to make it easier for our residents to pay permits, fees, and assessments with electronic payment options, which aren't available today, but by the end of the year, they will be available. Secondly, to provide more information to our residents on where their tax payments are distributed. Remember, 80 cents out of every dollar we get is immediately passed on to schools and other entities, and how we spend it here at the township for providing essential services. And three, to maximize interest income on our assets within the very stringent requirements of our investment policy, which tells us what we can invest in, and they're very safe instruments. Lastly, I want to thank Manager Walsh and Deputy Manager Opsimer for their extra effort on this most recent water main break, and really throughout the past year. We have had a really tough year. Grand River was torn up for over a mile, our main thoroughfare. The bridge has been out. Okemos Road north and south was out. We've had a number of water main breaks, and then the Daniels Drain. 300 homes were torn up. Many of those were my neighbors. It was a very intrusive and exhaustive project. They managed all that. On top of that, we had a cable contractor come in and act carelessly and created a huge public health hazard. Remember the communication on that? We were on top of that immediately, kicked them the heck out of the township, and fixed that public safety issue. So I see them every day in the building. It has been a tough year. It's a tense time, and they are doing, and their teams are doing all they can to provide services for the township. So communication sure isn't perfect necessarily, but they're actually more focused on fixing the problem and allowing the communication to come out as it should. But there's no lack of effort on our DPW and management teams to get these situations resolved and resume normal business here in the township. And we'll get a lot more normal once that bridge gets done sometime later this winter. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Clerk Guthrie.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. As in regards to communications, as part of the communications outreach from the clerk's office, if anyone hasn't happened to notice, we began putting all of the legal ad notices for meetings and public hearing notices in the City Pulse. This is in addition to the Lansing State Journal. We had decided that since we hadn't had a lot of public coming out and engaging, that we wanted to increase our additional outreach efforts by publicizing in both papers. And I have received comments from residents that they appreciate the additional notices that are going out. So that's a good thing. So if we can all help spread the word to encourage people to participate in public engagement, that would be great. Since I am the board liaison to the Communications Commission, I not only want to encourage residents to participate, but to go to the Get Connected section of the township website. You can sign up for community alerts, weekly newsletters, meeting notifications. There's a lot of stuff on there that you can sign up for and get involved on the social media accounts that the township manages. And also in regards to, I did see a lot of information on Nextdoor regarding residents being able to contact board members. I think I'll take the liberty of speaking on behalf of the board by saying we are all available. We are more than willing to speak with residents. I put my cards over there on the table. You can find me on social media anywhere. Just Google my name. I'm happy to meet with anyone, and all of the township board's information is for how to connect with individual board members is on the township board section of the website. I don't think any of us would refuse to meet with the resident. We report to you. And so I think I speak on behalf of all of us in saying that, and we'd be happy to meet with anyone, Zoom with anyone, have coffee. I'm a coffee addict. I also love food. So in any way, shape, or form, I'm happy to meet with people and resolve whatever issues there are in the community and come together as a community. In regards to Okemos Village, thank you, Trustee Wilson, for bringing that up. I'm in full support of having some sort of public forum with the developers. I think it's been a long time. I think Director Schmidt put something together a while ago with the developers, and there was a public forum where they shared information. I don't think we've seen that in a while. I know there's been progress, and the board last acted on the brownfield plan in November. So I'm in full support of that and having something put together where we can meet with the residents, answer any questions. Love the philosophy, can't over communicate. Elections. In regards to elections, the statewide audit selected Precinct 7 from Meridian Township from the November election to be audited. That audit will be conducted with the Ingham County Clerk's Office this Friday, January 24th. We do expect the audit to go smoothly. The purpose of the audit is to focus on confirming that election procedures were properly followed and election equipment functioned properly, and to identify any areas for focus and improvement in future elections. So I give a big shout out to our Deputy Clerk, Zach Lemaster, who's been a rock star all year with elections, and he'll be a big part of this audit on Friday. And then in regards to department goals, we're not nearly as exciting as the treasurer's office with investments. So basically our goals are, we have a new FOIA software program that we will be implementing training and doing cross-training on. We'll be working on record storage and management and getting our voter MasterCards and cemetery records up to date. And then other than that, we have some board policies. We have a board policy manual that hasn't been updated since 2014. So pretty sure I can knock that out in the next couple of weeks. So that's our other goal for the year. Thank you. And I'm sorry to be so long-winded.
That's okay. We are at this point,
I'll be very quick.
whatever. Trustee Brzezinski, whatever.
Just a few updates. One, for Environmental Commission, we're still working on the climate sustainability plan, and I believe we have communication with our staff, Leroy with our supervisor, and potentially have a future presentation from them on our energy component of that plan. Our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Work Group met just last week in developing our goals moving forward. We're really excited. Our Director of Human Resources, Abby Tioff, has been fantastic in organizing that, but we're looking at, what we can do internally with training more regularly. Also looking at policies and procedures, which they've already started, as well as recruitment for other staff and/or work persons. And then excited to report that we are looking at more public-facing community events, and one of them this year will be our first ever LGBTQ Pride celebration. So we're looking at that very early in the planning, but I'm very excited, lots of momentum. The only other would be that Supervisor Manager Walsh and I met with our new interim president for MSU, Teresa Woodruff. And I'm not going to say too much because I'm sure the supervisor is probably going to mention a little bit about that too.
Thank you. Comment further on that meeting at MSU. It was turned basically a meet and greet, and we had a very warm and somewhat exciting discussion with the interim president at MSU. But probably most notable is that her comments and the conversation was very much pointed to how Meridian Township and MSU exists in this region, and how we, together with other municipalities and organizations, and how we specifically contribute in the ways that we can to the success of the operations and the future and the vision for Meridian Township. I found it to be very productive, very welcoming, and very much like atmosphere that Meridian Township wants to contribute to and plans to contribute to. The other thing I would say about that is that we are beginning to promote open conversations with many of the organizations that are in Meridian Township and work in Meridian Township. And examples of how that has been going was the presentation from the Nokomis Center. In addition, the Township Board, members of the Township Board have had an opportunity to meet and begin conversations and promote open conversations with some members of our school boards. And we look forward to meeting with other groups, small groups, not to achieve anything, but to get to know each other. We all experienced recent elections. These boards have changed and recently, and we hope to be able to continue to work closely with the other contributors in our community. I think the other places I've been in the last 2 weeks have already been mentioned, and so we will move on now to approval of our agenda. Mr. Duchesne.
I move the approval of the agenda as presented.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor of approval of the agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. And the chair votes yes. The approval is unanimous. And item 9 is consent, approval of consent agenda. The consent agenda includes our usual communications, minutes of the January 10, 2023 regular Township Board meeting, and the manager's bills. Item 9 on the consent agenda is a charitable gaming license for the Oklamas High School Drama Boosters. Mr. Hendrickson.
I move the consent agenda as presented.
Support. Supported by Trustee Buzinski. For approval, we need a roll call vote. In this case, Mr. Lemaster.
Supervisor Jackson,
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie,
Yes.
Treasurer DeShane,
Yes.
Trustee Hendrickson,
Yes.
Trustee Sundland,
Yes.
Trustee Wilson,
Yes.
Trustee Wazinski.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. Having no questions for the attorney at this point, we will skip from item 10 and with no hearings tonight, we'll skip to item 12. 12A is ordinance 2022-15 daycare regulation update, final adoption. Mr. Schmidt?
Madam Supervisor, the request in front of you this evening is the final adoption of the daycare regulation update. Just to reiterate, this would change the definition of family and group child daycares to allow for 7 children in a family child daycare home, a family child care home, and between 7 and 14 in a group child care home, consistent with the state law that was passed last year, consistent with requirements. And the request of the board, we did publish the notice of intent to adopt after the last meeting and prior to this meeting, and at this time, we would recommend approval of this ordinance.
Okay. Trustee Wilson.
Madam Supervisor, thank you. I move to adopt the resolution approving for final adoption zoning amendment 2022-15 to amend the zoning ordinance of the Charter Township of Meridian to update daycare definitions to be in compliance with recent state law changes.
Support.
Supported by Trustee Wazinski. Trustee Wilson.
The reason for doing this is exactly in the motion that we want to bring ourselves in compliance with state law. No
Trustee
further comments.
Wilson, Wazinski? No one, anyone else? I believe we need a roll call vote for, I'm sorry, Mr. DeShane.
Yes, will support this as well, and I use the same time to talk about the importance of quality daycare and anything that this board can do, apart from this motion, to facilitate additional daycare here in Meridian Township, we should do. At my office and utility building, we have four of our workers are daycare is essential. None of the four could be there without good quality daycare. So we hope this motion, in addition to expanding it, does not in any way degrade the quality of daycare that's being provided in these homes. It's nothing unique to Meridian. This is a state law. But it's important to note how important daycare is. It's some of those things that's kind of under the radar, but it's essential to the way the world works. Without daycare, we lose half of our workforce, and that, or a quarter of it anyway, and that would be a huge loss. Thank you.
Other comments? Then, Mr. Lamaster, I believe we need a roll call vote.
Clerk Guthrie?
Yes.
Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Trustee Hendrickson?
Yes.
Trustee Sundland?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Wazinski?
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson?
Yes,
Motion carried 7-0.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 12B involves board and commission appointments. Tonight, I am recommending for appointment to the Township Board and Commission vacancies for the Building Board of Appeal with one vacancy. I won't make the motion. I will open the, my recommendation is the appointment for Mr. William K. Wood for the Building Board of Appeals for a term ending 12/31/24, and for the Land Preservation Advisory Board, Ms. Kathleen Fay. I guess I made the motion, didn't I? Okay. Mr. Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I move to appoint William K. Wood to the Building Board of Appeals for a term ending 12/31/24.
Okay.
Support.
Mr.
Yeah, I appreciate the supervisor for bringing this nomination forward to us. Having reviewed his application materials, I find him to be well qualified for this board.
Okay.
I also found the same. Thank you.
Okay. Are there other comments? I would just add that Mr. Kaywood is a businessman in the community. He has worked with the township before as a member, I believe, of the DDA. And this is another responsibility he's taking in that director. All in favor of the motion to appoint Mr. William K. Wood to the Building Board of Appeals, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. And for the second recommendation, Mr. DeShane.
I move to appoint Kathleen Fay to the Land Preservation Advisory Board for a term ending 12/31/23.
Support.
Supported by Mr. Hendrickson. Mr.
All I know of our applicant is her application. Ms. Fay is interested in serving in environmental issues and serving the community. Those are excellent qualifications to me. Land Preservation Advisory Board is in a maintenance mode now, rather than the past years when it was busy acquiring properties. Now it's a little different mission, but it's nonetheless very important to our land preservation efforts.
Okay. Mr. Hendrickson?
Nothing further to add than that.
Okay. All in favor of the motion to appoint Kathleen Fay to the Land Preservation Advisory Board, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Chair votes yes. Motion passes. Item 12D, C, is the Township Emergency Plan update. Chief Hamill has been introducing us and of the changes he has made in this document, and so we'll have him bring us up to date on where.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor Board. Thanks again for allowing me to come back. 2 weeks ago, I talked about the plan and how we are required to update it annually, and most of it is just name changes for personnel changes, and really that's it. So once it's approved, then we get all the signatures and it's good for another year. So I look for your approval if you don't have any other questions.
Okay. Trustee Wazinski.
I'll move to approve the updated support emergency plan, operations plan.
Support.
Supported by Trustee Wilson. Trustee Wazinski.
I read it, it was minor with, minor edits, but still really important plan, so I appreciate it, Chief.
Trustee Wilson.
I think you gave a great explanation of the purpose of the document and what you were doing, so I appreciate that, and I'll be supporting it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? This is a document update primarily. We can take a voice vote. All in favor of the motion that's been made, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Chair votes yes, and the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we need a break?
I'm just going. Quick water.
Dropping like flies.
Item 12D is an amendment to the resolution establishing the Corridor Improvement Authority. Director Clark has introduced this to us, and tonight she will be actually presenting the proposals to us.
Sure. So quick recap again. The CAA is interested in talking about a TIF as the original and initiated resolution for the CAA restricts that discussion. Tonight, our ask is for the board to adopt the attached resolution non-strike-through version, which is the amended resolution establishing the CAA. Essentially, the things that would change are the board attendees, the date and time, and the ability for the CAA to discuss the TIF.
Okay. Trustee DeShane, Treasurer DeShane, I'm sorry.
I move to adopt the amended resolution establishing the Corridor Improvement Authority of Meridian Township to allow the Corridor Improvement Authority to pursue a tax increment financing plan.
Support.
Supported by Trustee Hendrickson. Mr. DeShane.
As we see from the memo from Director Clark, the board approved this Corridor Improvement Authority in 2016. There's essentially 2 full boards back, and yet they left off the essential element of it, which was funding for it. And imagine how our DDA would be with no funding mechanism. So it was good to do that, to create the Corridor Improvement Authority. It was a bit short-sighted of them to leave out the funding. So we're fixing what they started to do in 2016. These tax increment financing are by no means a slam dunk. They're going to require a lot of work on the part of the Corridor Improvement Authority and its members and others to go to CATA, the Airport Authority, and others, and the township, and say, here is why we think this is important. Here's how the community will benefit by doing this. They'll have to make that case, as I'm sure everyone's well aware. I think the case can be made. The corridor is our economic driver in this township. It's extremely important that the corridors remain viable and vibrant, and this tool will help us to that end. So thank you for bringing this forward to us.
Thank you.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I also will be supporting this change to the authorizing resolution for the Corridor Improvement Authority. Having served as a past liaison from the Planning Commission to that group, I know that they are a committed group of not only township residents, but also business owners in our community. And they are seeking to do some things that this board would very much agree with, which are make improvements to our main commercial thoroughfare in the area. To date, they've been more or less unable to pursue their goals because they don't have a funding source. And this resolution and this change, with time and effort, of course, by Director Clark and that board, will allow them to do that. And so I'm excited to see what they can do. I know that they have been itching to be able to have this avenue open to them, and I'm excited that we're able to give that to them tonight.
Okay. Others? Clerk Guthrie.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I concur with the treasurer and the trustee. I also want to thank Director Clark for her expertise and her knowledge and the vast amount of hours that I can't imagine that you've put into this and working with the business community along the corridor and in putting together a very thorough presentation so that the board could make a knowledgeable decision on this, something that we all feel passionately about in supporting our businesses in the community. I mean, not only our residents, but our businesses as well. We want both to thrive, and we understand the relationship that is needed in our community. So I appreciate all that you've put into this for us to make this decision.
Thank you.
Other board members? I concur. I would like to thank Trustee Hendrickson for helping us to understand what we're actually dealing with and its purpose. So, in this case, we need a roll call vote. Mr. Lemaster.
Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Trustee Hendrickson?
Yes.
Trustee Sutherland?
Yes.
Trustee Wilson?
Yes.
Trustee Wazinski?
Yes.
Supervisor Jackson?
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So in item 12E, Chief Hamill is back. He's been very busy updating emergency responses plans and continuity of operation plans. And so he's now going to talk to us about
Yes.
specifically the continuity of operations plan.
Thank you for having me back again. I'm not going to bore you with another long presentation. You saw what the plan's made of. So, if you approve it tonight, Treasurer DeShane asked about a training plan, and I kind of threw together a little bit of information, real simple. After this, once it's approved, I'll meet with directors and kind of go over how the plan works, how we proceed with documentation. What my goal is to do it geographically, and what I mean by that is, so for instance, where Frank's or Manager Walsh's office is and all the other directors there, that's kind of a geographic area. And what we'll do is they'll be separate, but they'll be together. And then as we move forward with the planning and as we get the documentation done, we will exercise it. And what I told the managers yesterday actually, was as we move forward with the construction that's going to happen here, it's going to be a really good way to see some of the needs that we have in regards to IT issues and moving departments and information that's in their offices that they may or may not have or have to go find. So that's really kind of how we'll roll out the plan. I'd like to have the whole plan done by the end of the year, but again, it's based on getting all the documentation into the support plans for each department.
Okay. Any further questions?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Move to approve the continuity of operations plan consisting of the basic plan and functional annex and support plan for each department.
Support. Supported by Trustee Wazinski. We could take a voice vote in this case. All in favor of the motion to approve the continuity of operations plan, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Chair votes yes. And I presume the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 12F is reauthorization to waive section 5084 for the 5084 subdivision 4A for the Oakland's Road Bridge Construction Project. Mr. Opsimer.
Good evening, Supervisor Jackson and board members. So the item before you tonight was actually requested by Trustee Hendrickson and Supervisor Jackson. The board has seen this before because at your March 8th meeting, as I noted in your packet, you did pass a similar motion. That was waiving the limitations on construction hours for the pouring of the bridge deck. That did not end up coming into play except for the very western span of the bridge deck because they don't like pouring concrete during high heat temperatures. Obviously, the eastern portion of the bridge deck was poured during relatively colder months this fall and this winter. So the motion before you tonight would simply allow the contractor to work on Sundays and holidays if the contractors are able to do so, to give them a little bit more leeway on completing the bridge project, more or less. That would be the impact of the motion before you this evening.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Mr. Hendrickson, would you make the motion?
Absolutely, Madam Supervisor. I move to waive section 50-84, subsection 4A in our Code of Ordinances to permit the Ingham County Road Department and its contractors working on the Okemos Road Bridge project to conduct construction work Monday through Sunday, including holidays, between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. until March 7th, 2023.
Support.
Kurt Guthrie supports. Mr. Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I appreciate Deputy Manager Opsimer jumping on this one and bringing it to us. Obviously, the community wants to see this bridge project done as quickly as possible. And while it is not our project, the Ingham County Road Department is overseeing this project and is running this project. It is, I think, incumbent upon this board to use every tool in our bag to help them to finish it as quickly as possible. This is an area of the township where there will be minimal disruption with work done in the evenings and on the weekends. And I think, by and large, the overall impact of getting the bridge reopened more quickly vastly outweighs any inconvenience that would be had in the intervening weeks by allowing them to work after hours and on the weekends. And so I think this is an excellent opportunity to extend the ability to continue their work on the weekends and after hours to the bridge contractors. And hopefully they'll be able to take us up on that, and this will help them get that project complete in a timely fashion.
Thank you. Trustee Wilson.
As a resident in the neighborhood that's borne the brunt of the diverted traffic, despite the signs that say local traffic only, and it's been a year, we're at the point where anything that we need to do to speed this ahead and get that bridge open, we're in favor.
Other comments? Mr. DeShane.
Because this is on our discussion item and because we do want to follow board rules, I think we need to start with a motion to move this to action, to take immediate action on this. So I move that we.
Yep.
It's on
You're on 12F, so it's on for action. We made sure to.
Okay, the
Make it an
version of the
action.
agenda that I have is on the discussion item, so,
Got changed.
okay. Never mind, thank you.
It was a good idea.
Good eye.
Clerk Guthrie.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I want to thank Deputy Township Manager Dan Opsimer and the communications team for working with the county on this county project and communicating and what's happening with this project and keeping us updated. I live off Mount Hope Road. I'm not going to admit whether or not I've driven through Indian Hills to get home. Marna's probably seen my car. But yes, I have. So I I too concur with trustee Hendrickson and trustee Wilson in regards to completing this as soon as possible in the best interest of the community and our school system who uses this roadway for buses and our business owners. And I know that there's an impact on them. So whatever we can do to help lessen the impact on our school system, our businesses, and our community members, I'm in favor of. I only have one question. And
For Mr. Opsimer.
for Mr. Opsimer, do you, I hate to ask this, do you anticipate it going past March 7th? Because I hate to give a deadline for 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on the holidays and everything.
So that date was chosen because your first board meeting in March is March 7th. So if there's any need for a continuation, I can actually bring it to you at your March 7th board meeting.
You're ahead of the
But
game.
also
Thank
to
you.
keep the timeframe as tight as humanly possible and send the right message, right? I can say the general contractor has been phenomenal on the project. I called them today to make sure that more gravel was placed in the temporary curb cut for Okemos Public Schools for Central Montessori. They're always on top of it, and the general contractor's been phenomenal. The concrete subcontractor has had many, challenges. The concrete sub worked on Okemos or Grand River Avenue as well. So, I mean, they were coming back and forth between the two projects, and there's a high demand for contractors in general in the public sector, public infrastructure space. So they're all doing their best they can under very difficult circumstances and just an absolute dearth of work. But the most critical thing is the bridge deck. We did publish an update, which the board received, but the community can also receive it by going to our Facebook page, or you can go to the township website, meridian.mi.us/government/township-projects. Or if you just go to our main page, type in township projects, go to that page. We do have chronological updates. There's about 30 that have been published throughout the course of this calendar year, just for the bridge project. And they're in chronological order from present day all the way back to January. But we do have the bridge deck, or the approaches, I should say, to the bridge deck slated for concrete work next week. So as long as we don't run into any precipitation issues next week, and the approaches, meaning Okemos Road itself, is poured, that concrete is placed on the north and south side of the bridge, that would be, the biggest construction item remaining on the bridge. There's still other work, guardrails, the pedestrian railing, other work that will have to occur before the bridge opens. But once that concrete's poured, it has about a 7-day cure period, and then we are in the home stretch for at least opening the bridge. There's going to be other ancillary work that occurs outside of the limits of the bridge itself, between the curb lines where the cars are traveling. So that'll be critical, and fingers crossed for good weather and limited precipitation next week.
One final question. Could you address if there are residents listening or watching this meeting, the type of concrete that's poured during the winter to ensure that it's cured, I think
Yeah, they'll do special mixes, and they've been doing special mixes on Grand River Avenue as well at the latter stages of that project. They'll also blanket it to control the temperature and to make sure that it has the appropriate cure temp. But typically a cure time would be more like 4 or 5 days. In these incremental weathers, it's going to be more like 7 or 8 days. But the bridge deck will have plenty of cure time because of the other work that's required before it will open. So,
Thank you.
And that bridge deck has been curing since the second week of January.
Other questions, comments? Did you have Sunderland?
I was just gonna say, I think there's supposed to be a snowstorm today.
Relatively mild, but as long as they can get the grade and it's not, there's not too much snowfall, we should be good for next week. Right now, the forecast shows mostly cloudy, but a little bit of sun coming through and low chance of precipitation, so.
Oh, really?
Always like a weatherman.
They changed.
Yeah, right.
I'm referring to Monday and Tuesday. Monday and Tuesday would be the start of pouring the approaches of Okemos Road.
Next week.
So,
Okay.
yep.
All right, so this is a Motion to approve a reauthorization of a waiver. And we can take a voice vote. All in favor of the motion to reauthorize this waiver, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. The chair votes yes, and the motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Officer.
Thank you.
We now move to item 13, board discussion items. 13A is ordinance 2022-16, sign ordinance update. Sorry.
And you know, I don't know anything about the sign ordinance.
Okay, I'm sorry. Please, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you for the allowance. I just wanted to, as staff who gets to discuss the bridge project with a lot of residents, I just want to thank Trustee Hendrickson for bringing this up. Anything we can do to move this along is in the favor of our residents and getting the bridge accomplished. And we'll be going with a press release on this tomorrow from our communications team to get out, because the public needs to know. Whether they work on evenings or Sundays isn't the point. The point is that the Township Board is taking this action, and I thank Trustee Hendrickson for that. Thank you.
Thank you, both. Mr. Schmidt.
Well, I was hoping Manager Walsh was going to handle the sign ordinance.
He told you up front he wasn't going to.
So this is the one of the largest ordinance updates you'll probably see in a long time. This is a complete overhaul of the sign ordinance. Most communities have been going through this exercise since the Reed versus Gilbert Supreme Court case was set down by the United States Supreme Court, which functionally outlawed content-based regulations. It took some time for the legal community, the planning community to get together and understand what that exactly means. But largely, if you have to read the sign to understand how to regulate the sign, it's probably not a legal regulation. And so the vast majority of what you see in this ordinance are modifications to eliminate the content-based regulations that were previously in our ordinance. So that's the big picture that we're looking at here. There's a number of changes, and I'm just going to briefly go through things. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail. I'd be happy to answer any questions. But we've overhauled the definitions in the ordinance to further clarify specific terms of art or specific things within the ordinance that we know need to be defined. We have substantially updated the purpose section, which is something that we really left to the township attorney, because as a planner, you either love or hate purposes. I don't particularly care for them. So the township attorneys updated that for us to make functionally what that does is it helps to, if we were ever to be challenged on this in court, show what our intent was and what we were trying to do to make it more legal for us in the future. There's a substantial amount of what I like to call clarification and consolidation throughout the ordinance. So if you go through some of the old sections, you'll note in many places it makes reference to Section 7 of the sign ordinance. But that sentence was written about 5 different ways depending on which section you were in. So what we've done is we've clarified that. Section 8 is a great example. Previously, what we're trying to get to is every section saying signs shall be installed in accordance with those requirements specified in Article 7 of this chapter. Any other language is superfluous, and it was different depending on which section you were in. So that's what that is. I'm going to skip over these two real quick and come back to them. We have updated the regulations for flags, which actually was the most complicated part in the end. The Planning Commission, myself, the Planning Commission Subcommittee all struggled with this a little bit. So we turned that over to the township attorneys to give us reasonable language. The temporary sign section is probably the biggest change here. This is functionally what the Reed versus Gilbert case started out of, which was a temporary sign that was placed by a church at the time illegally. And so what we've tried to do here is we've established 2 categories of temporary signs based on additional court cases that came to the Supreme Court. So we have an off-premise sign, or an on-premise sign. The on-premise signs are things like for sale or for lease, grand opening, construction project that's going on, something that's talking about what's going on the site. Because you are doing that as an addition to the sign that's permitted for that site to begin with, there's some flexibility there. The off-premise signs are totally not political signs because that would be illegal to call them political signs. But it's things like that that do not specifically talk about what is going on the property. Save the whales is the example every planner uses. Everybody wants to save the whales, but there's certainly no whales in my front yard if I put a sign out there. And so that section is really trying to regulate all of the other things that we get into with signage in a residential district, specifically. That was, we're pretty comfortable that this is acceptable language. It's a lot of places have vetted language along this lines. Our attorneys are pretty comfortable with this. We added a provision at the very end that is new, entitled construction project waivers. So in situations where we have major construction projects, such as Grand River Avenue, we will likely in the future be asking the board to waive temporary sign provisions to allow for some flexibility. Functionally, this summer when that happened, it was a function of us enforcing differently with those businesses that were directly impacted by construction. We tried to provide them a little bit of grace over the summer. And so what we've done is functionally codified our activities from the summer and allowed the board to weigh in on that. So there's two changes I do want to point out because they are actual changes to what people normally think of in the sign ordinance: size, height, location. So the two real only changes to the size, height, location question is in the professional office district, we did increase the size of a sign that is a ground sign that is permitted, freestanding, I'm sorry. Freestanding the sign is permitted from 20 to 30 feet on the wall side sign and 25 to 32 on the freestanding side. Those were small numbers to begin with. They're also unusual numbers in that freestanding sign is generally a factor of a sheet of plywood. It's just how the industry has always gone, and 25 square feet is just a weird number. However, in the flip side, in the subcommittee and the planning commission agreed to reduce this height from 16 feet, which was previously permitted, down to 6, which is frankly what we see is a 6-foot tall monument sign. And that's what people do in an office park. So we think that's relatively straightforward. On the commercial side, staff recommended and the planning commission approved a change in the area of signage for freestanding signs to 38 square feet. Right now, the ordinance has a sliding scale depending on how big your building is, which also doesn't necessarily align with how big your building is because it's also when your building was built, because if you predate the ordinance, you have a large sign. So what we've done is we've kind of tossed all that and said, look, we're just going to the middle number. It's 38 square feet. That was that's sort of the average number for most large size buildings, and that can be the standard now going forward. It makes it very straightforward. There's a number of other minor changes throughout the ordinance: directional signs, window signage, drive-throughs, how we handle these types of things. I'm happy to talk about any of them in any detail. What I can tell you, though, is that this will touch every regulation that we have on signage, and I will also, I'm going to put this out there now and hope it doesn't come true, but I can almost guarantee you we will be back with a change next year, because on an ordinance this big, when you make this many changes, inevitably there's going to be something that doesn't work. We know this going in. We're prepared for it. I've already told my staff, if this goes forward, as we implement it, we just need to make sure that we're noting if we have problems, and we'll do a little cleanup in the future. But this is definitely something that we have needed. Most communities need to tackle this problem, and I'm glad that we're finally there.
Treasurer DeShane.
Thanks, Tim. You're right, this is a big ordinance change. Having been in the ZBA for 3 years and a lot of sign cases come before the ZBA, it's really important. I would like to see us spend more time with this. I would like to see us spend at least an hour of an in-service type meeting with you and your staff and go through this section by section. If possible, bring us some graphics, some visuals, so we can see what the old sign was, what the new sign is. Really break this down, because it's going to impact the township in probably ways that many other ordinances haven't. don't know if we need to do a special meeting of the whole, some meeting before we take this on, or we keep other discussion items to a minimum for that agenda, but give ourselves a full hour to take this out section by section, so we can really visually see it and fundamentally understand it the way that the planning commission took to do it. I think this board needs to as well. So I think this is a good introduction to it. I would like to spend some more board time before this comes back for action. Thank you.
Clerk Guthrie.
Thank you, Treasurer DeShane. I concur. This is a large document and a huge change. And I know the number of hours that were spent on creating this sign ordinance in the first place was huge. And I know that the Planning Commission, the subcommittee, has spent a lot of time on this. I feel, as a board member making a decision on this in regards to signage, and I know how touchy this area can be, that I feel I need more time to review these materials and digest them. And I'm glad that you suggested that, Treasurer DeShane, to have 1 hour with your staff explaining it, because it is very daunting. This is something you're looking at every day. And it would be helpful as a board member in making a decision to have more of your expertise and your staff's expertise in looking at this document before making a decision on it. Just understanding it better.
Trustee Wilson.
We recently had a communication from someone who turned out not to be a resident, but who was impacted by an electronic billboard.
Correct.
Is that located in Meridian Township?
It is not. It is in East Lansing.
East Lansing? Okay. That was a situation that made me really think about this sign ordinance, and are we creating any kind of a situation where a resident would be impacted by an off-premises sign literally changing the way they live because of the impact of that multi-changing, very bright sign?
So conveniently, I worked on that ordinance when I was in East Lansing as well. And we suggested as a staff at the time that there was a flaw in the ordinance and this might happen, and it turns out we were right. That was a lawsuit that Adams and East Lansing have long had a contentious relationship. And that was a hole in the ordinance, basically, because Saginaw Highway is considered a divided highway at that point, it was permitted the way the ordinance was written. So no, we don't have anything like that. Our outdoor advertising structure section is much different, and it also relies pretty specifically on the highway. But certainly something I can bring up with the township attorney just to confirm that there are no other concerns with that.
Or opportunities where that could happen. I guess that's another reason why I think we need a little bit more study on this ordinance change.
Trustee Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. So I enjoyed every minute of being on the Planning Commission. I am happy to have moved on before the subcommittee started meeting for this particular ordinance change, because I know how much work and effort had to go into it. And so if you're out there listening at home and home TV, thank you so much for taking that on. And thank you to Director Schmidt for leading that effort from a staff perspective. Obviously, an ordinance this complex and this voluminous is no easy task to update. But it has to be done. The Supreme Court has said that it has to be done, and so here we are. I also appreciate the treasurer's comments about getting us some extra time to sit down and go through this fly speck it a little more so that we understand everything that we're asking of the community. I think that's important, and it will certainly help to bring forward some of those nitpicky issues that may cause us problems down the road, and hopefully we will have addressed that. One question that I have from my initial review of this that perhaps you can answer now or at whatever future discussion we have is, this sort of ordinance change while going into effect right away, will likely take a long time to see full compliance with, right? If a tenant changes in a building, in a commercial building, for example, the sign at its current size, if they use the same, I don't know the term, the same box, basically, they can continue with that until they need to change and replace it, can they not?
Absolutely. And to be honest, most places, when they're just changing tenant, are not going to do a complete sign overhaul on an office perspective. Typically where you see this is the commercial side. The commercial tenants all have their own spec of how they put a sign up, and some are channel lettered, some are backlit, some are boxes, and some aren't. And so on the commercial side, you'll definitely see it roll out. But the commercial side, we're not really making any fundamental changes to. So it's unlikely that there'll be much of a visible change there. Really, it's a long play, and it's more a function of changing the way we actually implement the regulations.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I would say I noticed that you included a considerable section about how we make the transition long-term in the township, how we will, under what conditions we will insist that a owner would make changes to these particular standards. On the other hand, I also heard that you didn't really make a lot of changes. What you made a change in was how we referred to the signs. And it was more closely related to the zoning type than it was the use type.
That's fair. That's fair. That's a fair analysis. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Another thing is, and then these small changes in sizes, you are explaining as what's more common than what was the limits or standards set in the old ordinance.
Correct.
Okay. How'd you come up with 25 square feet for a flag? Maximum for a flag? I think it's 25, 24 maybe, or 25. And the only reason I asked was because in all my years on the planning commission, this was a biggie. A big discussion we had many years ago about how large we were going to allow flags in the township. And I'm just wondering, and so many of us did studies on the available sizes and why and all those kinds of things. I just wonder why you settled on 25, and I don't have a problem with it.
I am going to have to follow up on that.
Yeah, I think the standard, it's a maximum size, and it's either 24 or 25 square feet.
24.
24. But I was just interested in how.
The 24 is from the existing ordinance.
Oh, is that yeah.
It's 60. The current ordinance differentiates between a United States flag and any other flag, which probably not legal. That's a tough one. You're always going to get deference to the U.S. flag, but when it's that big of a difference. So the 24 is actually in the current ordinance.
Yeah, okay.
I apologize. It took me a second to find the section.
So what I'm hearing from the board is that we would like to put our approval off and even consideration of approval for further discussion. And so maybe we can work with management to figure out how we will do that before a board meeting, after a board meeting is a possibility, or a special work session kind of thing to talk about it more fully.
Absolutely. Happy to set that up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
13B is redevelopment ready communities recertification update. Is this the issue you wanted to put on action,
No,
oh, okay,
no, please.
okay. Amber, Director Clark.
Okay. I like being on time. And when I looked at the agenda items and memos that we sent the year before, it was January 25th, 2022.
Oh, good.
When we first presented, where we were with RRC. So at that point, we'd had our first introductory meeting with MEDC specialists, and we had about 6 months to kind of talk about what was the changes and what was the expectation of the township board for recertification. We brought it to the board gave us kind of the thumbs up of yes, let's go through the inner workings administratively for recertification. And for members of the public, this is a program offered through MEDC, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, which allows Meridian Township to capitalize on incentives for redevelopment. We consider ourselves largely very much built out in our community, and so redevelopment of many of our sites is a plausible situation. And the cost of redevelopment is high, and so we usually like to use those incentives to encourage a developer to focus on dilapidated commercial properties. So we're focusing on our PICAs, we're trying to capitalize off of what MEDC can provide. After a year of work, which I have included status of the brief and all of the items that we needed to update, a lot of reds, a lot of letters, but much of it is administrative. And so there was a few things that Director Schmidt brought to you as ordinance changes, and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, but sure, this looks great. It's a part of the best practices and making sure that we're doing what most other communities in the state are doing competitively, but what other states are doing competitively to attract quality development. So if you need, and you have a question about any of the particulars listed in the brief that we were working on, please let me know. Some of the major sticking points, they kind of separate your recertification into two categories, certified level and essentials. Essentials are your regular administrative things, economic development strategies, annual reports, minutes from the joint meetings, all of those things. We upload this onto the Trello board. It's a website that MEDC has access to allow them to see the progress of the project, but also for us to actually upload the documents. So we have to physically upload or link the access to the document. So these have to be living articles from the township. The two items that we are bringing to the board tonight are items that we cannot, between Tim and myself, cannot make the best recommendation and move forward without your direction. The first is qualification, I think 2.7. It's essentially housing diversity. They're certified requirement level, so in order for Meridian Township to receive a certified status for this particular, MEDC would like to see 3 diverse housing types by right in every zoning district. And so that's a big conversation. I did try to drop that bomb a couple times for the board because it's a very large change. If I were to give this some layman speak, I would say to allow multifamily in areas without a special use permit and without having to go through special review. We do not have a recommendation for this at this time. Tonight, the conversation from Director Schmidt and I are whether or not you would even entertain it. Because if it's a hard stop, then we know, and we can stop going after the certified level for RRC, and we can let MEDC know. They have said that this is a hard requirement. They're not going to tell us how to meet the requirement, but they are going to say that we do need to meet it in order to get certified. If we are not certified, we fall into an inactive status. That would have an impact on us for programs like the RAP grant, where money kind of just trickles down into a fund. Surprisingly, they have announced that those types of funds, they are specifically going to go to the communities that are RRC certified. Those will be an eligibility requirement. Brownfield and some of the other incentives, they have some wiggle room and some flexibility for any community in the state to go to MEDC. But those high-ranking, large pots of incentive dollars, they are connecting specifically to certified level. The second is organization of boards and commissions, which I know we've been working on. That it would be very helpful for me to know what that process is, and then to utilize their best directions by just combining all of that information online. A lot of their recommendations is to make sure that any person in Meridian Township can go to the website and find out what is the process to being appointed to a board, what are the requirements for boards, what is the general requirement as a board member, not trying to make a differentiation between ZBA board member or DDA board member, but if you are a commissioner of Meridian Township, what is the expectation, attendance, bylaws, training, and et cetera. So as the memo says, we're 61% aligned with the essentials. Some of that includes master plan, annual reports, and those things. And we have to hit an annual report for 2023. So if you look at the Trello board, it looks like we're missing, but some of those things haven't happened yet. We haven't had a joint meeting. It's January 1st. So those things will trickle in once we have those meetings. There's 2 motions within the memo tonight. The first about the housing diversity alignment, and the second about board orientation.
Board members. Maybe the first question is, are we ready to make a decision on either number 2, housing diversity requirement, and or number 4, boards and commissions requirements? Or do we need more time? Mr. Hendrickson.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. So I think, we'll start with one of the easier ones. I think the board orientation alignment is something that we, regardless of how we decide on the other thing, is probably something that we should do, right? We should be transparent about how people how people come to serve on our boards and commissions. And we should offer them training and expectations and all of this. It's part of public service, is knowing how to serve. And I think that's something that we can and should promote. I'll stop there for now.
Okay. Treasurer DeShane.
We are lucky in this board in that we have a former MADC staff person on the board, which I'm going to turn to with this question. Is this housing diversity a way to, if you will, separate those who are, is it really intended to push townships and other areas that don't typically have housing diversity compared to an urban area? Is it a way to separate us from the rest of the group? That'd be my question.
Honestly, I've been retired for 7 years, and that was never a component of the original RRC that we developed in my tenure at the MEDC. And remember, I was the auditor, I was not the policy-making person. So these 2 aspects go hand in hand, right? We have to be compliant with both the board orientation and with this component, the housing component. And I think we're going to have to do some additional study in order to say whether we want a use by right without having all of the structure of special use permits and PICAs and all the other tools that we've been using here for a long time.
That's essentially right.
That is it.
Yeah. Clerk Guthrie.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I think the recruitment process is relatively easily, as alluded to by Trustee Hendrickson. I believe that that's internal. I believe the material is there. I think it's a matter of staff getting together with the communications department and putting the information on the website, because it already exists. It's just, let's get it on there and share it with the public. So I don't think that's a board decision. I think that's something that, the clerk's department with records and communications and other departments, we can all work internally on that and get it done. Housing diversity, can you give me an example of what housing diversity would look like? And what I heard you say was no special use permit And what, so if there's no special use permit, what that process would look like then?
Well, I'm going to be completely transparent. We've talked about this several times. We don't have a recommendation for you yet. We have not gone down that lane, because if it's a hard stop for you and it's not something you'd like, entertaining random ideas of where it could work.
I'm not asking where it could work, I'm asking what is housing diversity? What does that look like?
That would mean allowing anything from a single-family home, duplex, triplex, multiplex. It is allowing all types of housing across Meridian Township. And so there would be, again, without a recommendation of what that could look like, it's essentially, just think of a residential area.
So in any
And it could be
residentially
in that
owned,
residential area, it may be a single-family home, or maybe it's a triplex, or maybe it's multiplex.
so in any residentially zoned area, it could be that way. How many residential areas in the township are there to be developed where that could be a potential? Do we know?
That's a hard question. Whoa. Are you asking how many undeveloped parcels we have that could be in a residential zone? Yeah, I don't have that off the top of my head.
Yeah, and redevelopment.
I also, I think part of this goes to, back to the treasurer's question. I don't know that it's necessarily intended to bring us along or separate us or anything, because the majority of the communities that are certified are cities. We're an outlier in that we're a township. So I think what it's trying to do is, the entirety of the RSC program is really to provide certainty and consistency for the development community, with the idea that that potentially has the effect of bringing down the cost, because they don't have to, they know what they can do more upfront. From this housing question, one of the examples I will give you is accessory dwelling units. It's something that the Planning Commission has talked about previously. It's really never gone anywhere. It's come up again. It's going to be in the master plan this time to look into it. It's a question we get regularly. It's a question that my predecessor previously found a couple workarounds to pseudo allow it, but not really. The ordinance technically sort of allows it right now in that, but it has to be servants' quarters of all things. So it doesn't. It says home. It's functionally it's someone who is serving the main household. That's what it goes back to. So accessory dwelling units by right is something that would very easily get us to one of those things. What the rest of that looks like, I don't know yet. I haven't gotten a chance to dive into it yet.
Am I hearing you say that the board could define what those diverse housing typologies could be, those three diverse, the board could define it?
I think we would have some options of how to do it, but I think we need to figure out how to do it. If we're willing to go forward, we need to figure it out, because there are some major changes potentially as a result of this, the way our ordinance is currently structured.
I think I saw Trustee Hendrickson saying earlier.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. So does it have to be the same three typologies for all of the zoning districts? Or can you specify per zoning district which three you're interested in moving forward with?
I don't have the answer.
I'm asking from the MEDC's perspective.
From my perspective, MEDC does not try to tell you exactly how to meet their certified level of expectations. It's essentially, we try to meet them, we do an update, and then they say, yes, this meets requirement or not. So maybe we can come up with a recommendation that works, that fits the board, but does meet the requirements of the certified level.
Right, we're talking about technically fulfilling their requirements, which might be the best way of fulfilling the requirements in this case, right? Because, I think a lot of the trepidation that I felt about this in the early moments of the discussion was, wow, we've got, a rural third of the township on the eastern side that is not going to like the idea of a, 50-unit development by right popping up next door to them.
Sure.
And so, also there are some real challenges. We don't have many industrial areas in the township, but there's also some real, challenges with the idea of allowing a single-family house popping up on Dawn Avenue, next to some pretty industrial stuff. And so, I don't think it's a terrible idea for us to say to staff, go ahead, try, right? I think that, they've not met us tonight, right? They have some idea of what our hard line knows in that regard. I think, their staff is very capable of doing that. I think, if we can try to find a way to technically meet their requirements without fundamentally altering the nature of housing in the township, that would be ideal, right? Because obviously there are some real benefits to maintaining that certified status. From my perspective, I don't want you to go down a year-long rabbit hole only to find out that it's, just a thumbs down. But, explore what's possible, I think, within the framework that MEDC provides that doesn't force us to radically alter the way people are housed in the township. That would be, I think, the if we can thread that needle, that's what I would hope for.
Trustee Wilson.
And to build on that idea, because that's where I was going to, is are you working with the business development manager over at MEDC?
We have a CAT team we have like 3 people. Yes, to answer your question directly, yes, we've been assigned several people.
Because it feels to me like there might be multiple interpretations of this. And I wonder whether we can get better direction from the MEDC as to what they're looking for or the varieties of things they've seen in other communities that have been certified. I think we should look to what they have done in the past, working with the community, and see if maybe that's a way that we could work it out here. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
And
Trustee Sunderland.
I'm just thinking, like we have PICAs, where we've identified areas of kind of more urban development. That might be more appropriate than trying to bleed into the suburban areas. I don't know that we want to make it an across-the-board decision. The whole community is able to do this. I think we might need to limit it. That's my feeling on it.
I would add that I think Trustee Sunderland has actually hit on an interesting perspective. When you talk about interpretation, there are 3 things that scare me about this. First is 3 diverse housing topologies. Can't be 2.
Two gets us to the essentials.
Those are the kinds of questions that come to me.
Okay.
The second one is by right. And there's a lot of opportunities in their design to remove community input in the placement. And that bothers me. And then if you put something out there like this by right, that means you see a piece of land, you decide exactly what you're going to put on it, regardless of what its zoning is and regardless of where it is. So I'm not saying I can't come to this. I'm saying that I need to be very careful how our ordinances, which apparently our ordinances and our master plan are the only opportunity for community input, engagement, participation in this process that will be left under these conditions. Because we're talking about this diversity of residential housing in all of the zoning categories we have. And I'm not saying I'll never do it, but I need to see how it actually can be done.
Yep. Agreed. That is why we brought it tonight. Would you allow us to dive
Study.
into some
Absolutely,
recommendations?
Yes.
And bring you some things that are suitable. I will note that the direction that they give us about the housing diversities, it's a little, it can be considered slim, I guess. Hold on, I just lost it. There it is.
I think we can get there. I understand I have some thoughts floating around. Given what the feedback, I understand. And I think we can provide you with a series of options for that one. And I think there's one other one that will require an ordinance amendment. We'll give you options for those, and I think we can do this.
In the process, yep. This says that the township could permit these diverse housing topologies near their areas of concentrated development to support vibrant.
Which in our case is the Picas.
Right.
They're not telling us how.
Right.
They're just saying we do need to have it, and if we want to have it, we'll come back with
But
recommendations.
in that respect, permit in every zoning district. That's why I'm, can we pick PUDs only, or urbanized areas only, or, what are the limits?
Right. Well, I mean, even there'll be additional regulation when you're putting in a single family home. So, I mean, certain lot sizes are not going to work. And I don't think anyone's going to tear down a subdivision and then put up a bunch of duplexes. Like, it's not usually.
Well, we don't know.
We don't know. It's not usually the case. I do think that they're hoping that we focus these three types in concentrated areas where most likely we would see density of people anyway.
Okay.
I think Trustee Sutherland.
Trustee Sutherland.
I think I've heard the term pattern book housing.
Correct. That's that exists for communities that are more broadly planned. It's a very big thing in the South when they have thousands upon thousands of acre developments. They provide functionally a pattern book for how a new builder would come in, and you would have to meet these standards. We, on a more local level, did one in Howell for a large scale development in the 90s where the original builder was gone, but future builders, this is the book of functionally the design they had to follow. So those types of things exist once you get into architectural review standards.
Anyway, Mr. DeShane.
Thank you. It would be also beneficial to see what our tangible benefits we have gotten from the MEDC has been since we were certified. I know we've come close, and the village of Oakham has tried really hard and said no to. They really recently gave us, $40,000 for a local redevelopment. But for my take on this, MEDC is a great promise that we've hoped would turn out. We'd hope they'd be there for the village of Oakham, but I don't know that a lot has materialized for it. And so I'm that much more reluctant to turn our zoning ordinances on their head for a promise of some money down the road that we haven't seen in 4 years or 5 years. And there's not a real strong case to be made that it's likely to come in the next 4 or 5 years based on their grant choices in the past. So if you'd bring that to us, what they've done, what we've earned from them so far, and what the likelihood of something in the future coming, that would be part of my consideration as well.
Sure.
Thank you.
Clerk Gruffin.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. And when I look at this and I read 3 diverse housing topologies, I think about the board's discussions in the past regarding low-income housing, middle-income housing. So that's where my mind wanders. And then when I read housing topologies in any zoning district, what does in any zoning district mean? Does that mean one? Does that mean one of them? Does that mean a type? Does that mean all of them? I would like clarification what diverse housing topologies in any zoning district means according to the MEDC.
According to MEDC, just reading our ordinances, we do not have a zoning district that allows multiple different types of housing. So like if you're in a single family, that's it. If it's duplex, that's it. What they're trying to say is there's nowhere in our zoning map or in our ordinance where a developer would be allowed to present a duplex on a property that we've already zoned it that way.
So it could be one area in the township.
If, maybe.
That's what I wanted, yeah.
Actually, and it doesn't mean all areas in the township have to be developed with this option.
I don't think it means that all areas of the township need to be developed.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Where we would allow housing. So I think when it comes to industrial, I don't think that would be it, but sometimes we do have conversation about mixed use on commercial, so that might be a zoning category.
Okay. Trustee Hendrickson.
Thank you, Supervisor. Have the requirements changed? I asked because we got certified originally, and I wasn't here at that time. How did we meet this the last time?
That is a very good question. In the report and in the brief, which I did copy the last time when I presented this a year ago, so I don't know if I completely copied it in, but it does say, unfortunately, the township does not currently meet the zoning standards, and that they let us know kind of on the side. It was overlooked, and so we probably would not have received the status had they saw that.
I will say though, the program has changed substantially. This is functionally their 2.0. They're already starting to talk about 3.0.
Yeah.
So,
3 years to 5 years, circulating with the master plan. I think they made some openings more for allowances that you don't have to be RRC, and then they started slapping on the RRC requirements with the big stickers and the big grants.
One quick thing, do you have a timeline on this? Do you have a drop dead date on it?
Yes, we do need to, it says nearing November, so just about November when we do our joint meeting, finalize our last activities for the year, we would need to adopt a resolution certifying us into their program. And if we don't, we're just inactive, and that's where we'll hold it.
yeah. I mean, we were the first township in the state to get certified, and we intend to do our darndest to stay that way.
Okay.
Do we know how many townships have been certified since we were certified?
There aren't many, but I can get you a number. It's a relatively small number.
Thank you.
Anyone else? So where we are, so you're asking us, are we interested in pursuing particularly number one and number 4? At least to a study point. Board. What I think I've heard is we're probably already well along in dealing with number 4 anyway.
Yes.
And so we don't have any objections with continuing to do that, is that right?
No.
And your conclusions about number 2, the housing diversity issue, you want to continue to learn more about it and the possibilities. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have members of the public, we're at item 14. Do we have members of the public who would like to speak at this time? So second opportunity for public comment? Seeing none, we'll go on to item 15, other matters and board member comments. Clerk Guthrie.
Thank you. 2 quick announcements. One is, if anybody's listening, there's an open administrative position in the clerk's office. So you could work with us. We're a fabulous group of people. So if you're interested in applying, that information is online in the HR section of the website. And then there is a Chinese New Year celebration. That is Sunday, January 29th. That starts at 1 PM at the Meridian Mall.
Yeah.
Center Court.
Center Court at the Meridian Mall, if anyone would like to join in that celebration.
All right, anyone else? Then, I beg your pardon? Mr. Walsh.
Thank you. Just a real quick, I know it's been a long evening. My only suggestion is you just dealt with two really difficult issues. One is a sign ordinance, which is significant, and then this other issue about turning your zoning upside down. My suggestion on those two would be to have a study session on just those two issues and come in and discuss them, because they have a huge impact, as you know, as you've said, they have a huge impact on the community. Thank you.
And I would add to that, remember that there is kind of a deadline on the RRC issues. So, anything else? Trustee Hendrickson.
I move that we adjourn.
Moved and supported. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. We are out.
Thank you.